Get started here. Okay. Welcome everyone. Tap the screen, share the live. Let everybody know we're about to get started here. Welcome everybody. If this is your first time, my name is Tina. I am a happiness coach. I help people go from being in a dark place, feeling sad, depressed, or anxious, and move to, and of course, as soon as I start the live, my cat wants to sing with me. So please bear with that. All right. So I help people go from being in a dark place of feeling depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and moving them into a happier place. I do this by sharing my experience, strength, and hope, and these are things I practice on a regular basis. This is stuff I deal with on a regular basis, and I want to talk today about a particular topic that I think is going to be really, really helpful for everyone. Welcome everyone on TikTok. Please tap the screen, share the live, show some love, show some energy. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. Please make sure they're relevant to the topic at hand. So today we're going to talk about sadness and loneliness. You know what, Guts? I'm not sure, but you know what? You should probably go check out a fitness coach. I'm not a fitness coach, so maybe they can help you. I would recommend Phil Bohol. Okay, go check him out. He's done a lot, and he did it in like 6 months, so you should check him out, okay? So dealing with sadness and loneliness. So there's different types of sadness and loneliness. Katie, sorry. Sadness and loneliness. So it depends. There's varying degrees, so it's on a spectrum of sadness and loneliness. Let's deal with sadness first. So you can feel sad for all kinds of different reasons. Maybe you're sad because you lost a loved one and you're going through a grieving process, or maybe you've been sad because of a loss of a relationship, which sometimes can be harder for some people to deal with because not the person hasn't left this earth, and you know that they're around, and so sometimes it can be harder to deal with the loss of a relationship because on some level we take that personally, whereas the death of someone, although that is really hard, we all know that all of us are going to die, and that may or may not be something that's related to something that we did or didn't do, right? So sometimes the death of a loved one can be easier to deal with than the loss of a relationship, right? And we're going to talk about all kinds of different things to help you get through that. I'm going to share some tools, some tricks that I've been able to get through, because sometimes when those things happen, you can really go down to a dark place and it can feel hopeless. And we'll talk through all of that, so please stick around and we'll get through all of those. And then if you guys have any questions or if you're struggling with something in particular, please share that and I will try to answer that as best I can. Another type of sadness can come from loss of or a disappointment. So maybe you were expecting a particular job promotion, or you put a bid in on a house and you were really hoping to get that house and you had your hopes set up for that, and it fell through for whatever reason, and you can feel sad because you're disappointed from those kind of things. Maybe you found out that a friend of yours said something about you that was really mean and hurtful, and you feel sad and betrayed because you thought they were your friend and they said those things. So there's all different types of sadness, and there's different ways that you can start to deal with those kind of things. And one of the biggest things that I think happens with sadness, especially in loss of a relationship, because when you first start out in a relationship, you have all of these hopes and dreams and visions of what you see it's going to be like, and what you think it's going to unfold as, and then it turns out differently. And one of the things that most people don't talk about, so first of all, with the grieving process, first there's denial, that you can't believe it's actually happening. And then the second is you might feel angry. Hey, Alfred, good to see you. No, it's a different top, I think. I don't know. I did laundry, so it's clean. But so you can go through the grieving process of, first there's the denial phase, and then there's the anger phase, where you might feel angry that this has even happened to you. This is a little bit more like victim mode, and I can't believe this has happened, and I'm really pissed off, after all I did, and all of those kind of things. Or if it's a death of a loved one, it might be like, you know what, they were taken too soon. It wasn't fair. They were a really good person, and they should have lived a longer life, right? So there's all kinds of emotions that come up from that, and then you can shift into bargaining stage. I'm not able to call right now, Alfred, but thank you. So you can shift into the bargaining stage, where this is in your own mind. You're often like, well, maybe if I had done this, or maybe if I had said that, or maybe I shouldn't have said this, and you go through this whole bargaining facts. Oh my God. I would think some of the younger people on TikTok would know what a fax is, but anyway. So, Alfred, you're throwing me off again. Hey, Enron. Aw, thank you so much. That's so sweet, Enron. I appreciate you. Just wanted to stop in, remind you you're loved and important. Keep being awesome. Aw, thank you. Thank you. So, back on track. When you're going through the bargaining phase, page. Okay. The bargaining phase. This is where you're going back and forth with yourself of trying to find a way, and it's an attempt to regain control, because when we go through those kind of losses, we feel such a lack of control that this has happened to us. And that's part of why we go through that anger phase as well, is we start feeling like we're powerless, and that lack of control can lead us to that dark place. I know when I was feeling suicidal, the reason I felt that way and felt like I needed to take action on that, and thankfully I failed epically on that, but it was because I had such a feeling of powerlessness. And human beings in and of themselves, they really hate that feeling of powerlessness. And, sometimes we'll do extreme measures just to feel something, to feel like we're in control of something, even if it's a bad action, even if it's something that is not for our ultimate good. If it gives us that feeling of sense of being in control, then that oftentimes alleviates some of the pain. So always try to go towards more healthy ways of feeling in control, and we're going to talk about how you can do that so that you feel like you have sense of at least control over your healing journey. You can't control what happened to us a lot of times, but we can control how we respond to things and how we're going to take care of ourselves through that process. Okay, so once you go through that bargaining phase and you're going back and forth of coulda, shoulda, woulda kind of phase, then you might slip into sadness, where you're like, well, this really sucks. Because you eventually come to the place of knowing that there's nothing that you could have really done differently, and that this has happened the way it's happened. And when you start to get to that, then you start shifting into the acceptance phase, where you know that you couldn't change it, but now what you can do to heal, to be able to get a greater sense of control, is to find some sort of meaning out of it. So, so example, somebody who lost a loved one, they might start a charity or something in their loved one's name in honor of them. Or they might say, you know what, my dad really wanted me to graduate from college, so I'm going to go back to college and I'm actually going to do that. And so these are different ways that aren't necessarily bad, that we try to find ways to heal and to um, gain that sense of control, sense of purpose, to make something, to make lemonade out of the lemons that we're given, right? Because sometimes life sucks, and sometimes there's a great deal of pain, but we have to find some sense of purpose behind the pain. And when we shift our perspective to that, it gives us a deeper sense of meaning, and it gives us a sense of the ability to move forward and to go on. And one of the things that people don't talk a lot about is in the grieving process is grieving the loss of the dreams that you had. So, like I said, when you go into a relationship, or when you have someone and you thought, hey, this is how it's going to turn out, nobody really talks about the loss of the dream that you had from that. And that can be relationships. It could be the business that you were starting. You had this great idea and you were going to change all these people's lives and you were going to do all these things, and for whatever reason it didn't quite turn out the way that you wanted. And sometimes you have to grieve the loss of the dream of what you envisioned. And then finding a sense of purpose as you go through that grieving process, to know that you are here in this particular spot, wherever it is that you are, for a reason, and there's something to be gained out of it if you choose to look for that. If you choose to stay in that, and don't get me wrong, stay in those feelings as long as you actually need to, but there is a way, there is a pathway out. You don't have to feel stuck and mired down in those. And I've been able to travel this path many, many times, both sometimes with therapists, sometimes with coaches, sometimes completely on my own. And I found that the ones that I gained the most strength on are the ones that I actually traveled on my own, because, and I think this is something that's anytime, my biggest concern whenever somebody dies isn't when everybody's flocking around them and everybody's like, oh, like, you know, they're there for the funeral, they're there to help you with the setup and maybe help with packing and moving and all that kind of stuff. But I always worry about the person that sooner or later you're going to have to get to the point where you have to sit by yourself and you have to realize that what you hoped for, what you wanted, is no longer there. And that's the hard part to actually get through, because it doesn't matter how much support you have around you. You could have the most amazing, loving family, and they could all be in the same house with you. But maybe it's when you finally go to bed that night and you realize that your partner's not there with you anymore, or you know, that you wake up in the morning and that job that you used to go to, you now don't go to anymore. And so there's this sense of loss that there's no avoiding the feelings that come with it. So there's no way around it. You have to go through it. You have to feel those feelings. And just know that as you go through that, the deeper that you can actually embrace that and truly cry your eyes out and really feel that to the depth of your core. And there's tools that you can use to start helping you process through that. Journaling is one of my favorite ones, to start writing that stuff out. And there's different prompts that I can give you, and I will give you by the end of this training, so that you have this and that you can start to process some of these feelings that you have if you're feeling sad, because you're grieving a loss of some sort, okay? And so one of those journal prompts would be writing down some of those dreams that you had. It's like, you know what, I really thought that we were going to be able to go on that vacation to wherever, and we were going to do all these fun things, and it was going to be so great, and you can visualize that, and you can connect with that, and then understand that writing all of that stuff down, knowing that just envisioning it, you have experienced it. So a lot of times, think of it, even if there isn't a loss. I don't know how many times I've been excited for a family function or something like that. And I'm really happy to go, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to see all of my favorite people, and I end up going, and then, you know what, a friggin' fight breaks out, or somebody's being snippy with somebody else, or there's some sort of family drama that ends up happening. And you're just like, that wasn't at all how I envisioned what I had hoped for. And I remember somebody telling me, it's like 75% of the good feelings you have about going to see family happens before you actually see them. And then once you get to see them, then you're reminded going, yeah, right. This is why I hang out with my friends. So the family of choice. So this is, and I like to call the people that you work with and the friends that you choose are your family of choice. Right? So we can't always choose the family that we have, and sometimes we don't see eye to eye, and that's okay. It doesn't mean anything bad, that everybody's brought into our life for a reason. And being able to embrace them for whatever reason that they are. Sometimes the reason that they're there is just to be an irritant to you so that you learn to stand up for yourself, right? Who knows what it is, but whatever reason that they're brought into your life, they are there for a reason, okay? So, so let's talk about some journal prompts. So journal prompts that you can use is, so let's talk about the 5 stages of grieving, right? So as you're going through the grieving stages and understanding what the prompts are. So you have the denial stage. So this can be hard to journal because you're not even fully aware, but you might be at the stage of more like you're feeling a bit numb about the situation. And you don't really feel anything, and you're just kind of shut down. And that's usually because the emotions are too hard for you to process at that time. So beginning to slowly give yourself permission to feel some of those feelings. And that could be by starting writing, going, you know what, I actually don't want to do this exercise. This sucks. I don't want to feel this. This is terrible. Whatever it is that you want to sit and write, that's one of the things that you need to be able to purge out of your system, to start to open that up. And it's like, I don't want to cry about this. I just want to pretend like this never happened. And that's okay. You can write that down, and that helps you move to the next stage. And then you might feel angry about it. And then writing down the angry feelings that you have. And this happens a lot of times too. Anger and guilt often end up correlating, and they're side by side, because what ends up happening is you may feel angry that somebody has died and left you, and now you're all alone, and now you have to deal with all this stuff that you didn't want to deal with before. And it's okay to feel that angry feeling, because, you know, everybody always says you don't speak ill of the dead, but, you know, sometimes you need to talk about some of those angry feelings. And in my healing journey too, and a lot of the survivors that I've worked with, they sometimes what'll happen is memories that they didn't remember until that person died now surface. So the death or loss of a family member that maybe abused you, maybe you didn't remember some of those things until after they passed, and that is because it is now safe for you to remember. So sometimes you might get triggered by the death of a loved one or something like that. So journal prompts and writing through some of those feelings, writing through some of the memories that come up, and then as you're going through that with the bargaining stage, writing out the different things of like, well, maybe if I had said this, maybe if I had done this, or maybe if I hadn't said this, or if I hadn't done that. Writing those things out so that you can take a step back and look at it more objectively, and then really assess more from a logical perspective of how would you support somebody that you really cared about through this same thing if they were asking you that same question, or if they were making that same statement. How would you try to comfort them? What would you do? Right? So if, for example, if your friend is going through a stage of they're blaming themselves for what happened, and you're like, but it's not your fault. And they might get angry and go, it doesn't matter if it was my fault. I know that this could have, like, you still feel how you feel. So you don't invalidate their feelings. You make sure that you validate how it is that they're feeling. And then sometimes it's also good to agree with them. Just agree. It's like, yeah, you're right. It sucks. And then they might get angry, and then they can fight back why it's not really their fault. Okay? So understanding that there's a couple of different ways that you could support depending on the person that you're dealing with, right? So during this time, as you're going through all of these stages in the sadness, is you want to make sure that you increase your self-care and self-compassion. Make sure that you have people that you can reach out to if things get too tough. Know where those numbers are, have them on speed dial, set them up like that you don't have to scroll. It's easy to reach out and contact. And if you're not sure, just reach out to them when it's a normal time and just say, you know what, I know I'm going through this hard transition, but if I called you at 3 a.m., if I really needed you, would that be okay? And just sometimes knowing that somebody says yes, then then they're not surprised if that happens, right? So having that as a possibility, okay? This may also include some spiritual care, maybe going to church, finding some faith, but this can also be hard too if part of the anger phase that you're going through is maybe you're angry at God for taking the person that you loved from you, right? Maybe you're angry and you're just like, fuck you, God, I don't want to talk to you. Write that letter out. Journal that, okay? Those are good letters to journal. It's like, you know what? You're a piece of shit. You led me down this path. I believed in you, and look what's happened. Guess what? God can take your wrath. He finds it amusing, okay? Not amusing, but it's like, you know, the equivalent of a kitten being mad, right? You know, they're not very threatening, but they're pissed off. They're really mad. They might be able to bite or scratch, but at the end of the day, you know, the power dynamic is completely different. So you don't have to worry about hurting God's feelings, right? So write that stuff out and do that. As you're going through the day, understand that there are going to be times that you're going to feel waves of sadness, waves of grief, and understand that it's okay. It's normal. You're supposed to feel that. Give yourself the space and the freedom to feel those feelings, and know that it's not the end of the world to feel that. It may feel like it in the time, but you will get through this, okay? And just keep that. Find something to anchor yourself into future state of that somehow I'm going to get through this. I did this. There were times where I felt very stuck. I felt very trapped as a child when I was being abused on a regular basis. And I would often get up in the middle of the night and I would sit in the windowsill of the apartment window. And I would look out at the other apartment buildings and I would see, like, you know, it's in the middle of the night, but there were still some apartments that had lights on. And I used to wonder and imagine what it would be like in the future when I'm grown up. I'm going to have a dinner party and I'm going to have people over and there won't be any fighting and arguing, and I could really envision in great detail, like I could see that the kitchen was white and the silverware was actually gold, and I could see all of this stuff in detail. And knowing as a child that I developed this ability to project into the future of that one day I'm not going to be in this situation. I just have to get through today. That's all I have to do. I just have to get through today, and somewhere in the future I'm going to have people around that I can talk to, I can laugh, and I can see me setting the table, and it was a beautiful dinner party and stuff like that. That's a vision I had as a child. That ability to imagine a different future, a better future. It's never happened, but it got me through. So it's not a matter of whether or not that actually happens. It was just a matter of something to anchor into so that you can get through the tough time that you're going through right now. So don't be afraid to use your imagination to create a situation that gives you some sort of peace and comfort today, even if it never happens, even if it's just pure fantasy. It doesn't matter. If it gets you through today and it helps you out of that dark place, I'm giving you permission right now to use that to your full advantage to be able to overcome that situation. Okay? Another thing that including the journal prompt, so increasing self-care, self-compassion, you, especially if you're feeling sad or lonely, right? Getting physical touch is really important. So that could be going for a manicure, pedicure, spa day, massage, little things like that can help with that need for physical touch. Having a pet, that helps as well too, okay? My cats have been a really big support system for me, right? They're very snuggly too, and usually at the worst times. So remember, as you're going through this, expect waves of sadness. And these waves of sadness are going to come up often when you're trying to do something to make yourself happy. Because when you're first starting to do this, it's going to be a reminder of, oh, I used to go here with my aunt. I used to go do this thing with my parent, right? Whatever it is, and it'll bring up that wave of sadness, that wave of pain, and here you are trying to do something happy for yourself. And it could be something simple as watching your favorite TV show, and you're like, and it hits you. It's like, oh, they're not here to watch it with me. Know that that wave is going to come through. It's going to pass through. Feel the feelings that you have in that moment. Cry a couple of tears if you have to, and allow yourself to feel that. Don't try to block it. Don't try to stop it. Journal out whatever's coming up. You might have different memories, different narratives that are going on in your own mind. Journaling that out gets it out of your mind, and then respond to it when you're journaling as well, of how you would like to have talked to them. Talk to them if they are actually here. So if it's a loved one that's passed on, talk to them like they are here. Okay? Tell them that you miss them. Tell them that you love them. Tell them all of the things that you wish that you could be able to be doing together. And sharing that part, it helps you. And I used to fight this stuff. It's like before I'd be like, wow, like I don't know if they're really going to know and all that kind of stuff. It's okay. It doesn't matter. It will help you in that moment. Allow yourself to be able to do that. Go out and visit old locations and recreate new memories. So if you're having a hard time doing this, invite a friend to come along with you and say, hey, you know what? My aunt and I used to go do this every Easter, and now she's gone, and I really would love to go do that, but, you know, can you come with me, right? So invite a friend along to join you, to revisit an old location, and create a new memory in that location. Okay? Another great way, especially when you're feeling very low, is to get out of self. And what I mean by this is go find somebody to be of service to. Go volunteer at a food bank, or go volunteer or do something with kids, or whatever it is, or just help a neighbor or a friend or something like that. Just do something that gets you out of your own mind thinking about what's going on with you, and being able to help somebody else in that moment, because this helps us with that sense of control that we're experiencing because of the loss. So it gives us that feeling of being able to help somebody else out, makes us feel like we're useful, and makes us feel like we're doing something good. And sometimes it also reminds us that even with what we're going through, there's still somebody else out there that's having a harder time than us. Okay? So, and this isn't to say not to, don't use it to numb your feelings and not feel the feelings that you're feeling. Make sure that you are processing the emotions that you're going through, crying them out if you need to, and finding ways to start rewriting the stories, the situations, and creating new memories. This may be a long process for you. It may be a short process for you. Depending on the sadness that you're dealing with, it could be the loss of the job, right? So if it's a loss of the job and you're going through that blaming yourself stage and looking at that objectively, it's like, oh, you know what, I lost my job because somebody else came in, they had higher skills, they had a degree, blah, 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 blah. I don't. Instead of staying in the I don't phase, it's like, okay, well, what would have prevented me from experiencing that? What do I need to learn from that? Or maybe you realize it's like, you know what, I fucking hated that job. I'm kind of actually glad, even though it sucks, I don't have an income, I'm kind of glad that I don't have that job. And now I have the ability to figure something new out. I can start over. I can do something different. So there's all different kinds of ways, and being able to shift your perspective about what has happened and the grieving process that you're going through is really important to help you with that healing process, that you don't have to stay in a situation of sadness and loneliness. And just so you know, being by yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you're lonely. I know myself, I have often felt the loneliest in my life when I've been surrounded by a bunch of people. And I think what loneliness really is it is a disconnectedness from ourselves. That we are not in touch with who we are and what it is that we're feeling and what it is that we actually need. And so oftentimes, the times that I felt the loneliest are the times I've been surrounded by a bunch of people and just going through the motions of life. Not really feeling fully alive, not really feeling fully present, not really feeling like I can do the things that I know would light up my soul. And so, because of that, I actually don't fear being alone. I actually enjoy my own company quite a bit because I've worked really hard on myself over the years. And I developed a really good connection with myself, that I can support myself through the trying times. And learning how to do that has been so valuable for me, because at one time I couldn't do that. And the loss of somebody was just devastating. But I can promise you this, there is a loss that is greater loss than anything, and it's the loss of ourselves. That can kill you. The loss of who you are the person that you see yourself as, can be really devastating to lose that. And so sometimes if we've wrapped our entire identity into that person that we were with, or that job that we did, or that, thing that we were hoping for, if we wrap our entire identity into that, when that is lost, we lose ourselves. And so being able to recreate ourselves is something that is part of the human journey, and that when we're able to rebuild ourselves and recreate ourselves into something new, something different, that is really powerful. And being able to persevere through that gives you this level of strength that you may not have known that you had within you. So with that, guys, I think we're going to have a bit of a shorter session today, and I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that you're able to implement the tools that I talked about. If this is your first time joining, or you just hopped in towards the end of the live, you can catch the replay. I'll have that posted on my YouTube channel, which is Coach Tina B 125. And you can go check that out, as well as the other free trainings. And you can also check out the artwork that I do, which is part of my art therapy. It's part of my self-care, because it gives me a sense of peace. It allows me to tap into my creativity, and there's the ability to purchase the artwork if you choose that. Okay, guys, so I hope this was helpful. I hope you have an amazing night, and we will talk to you again tomorrow. 9 p.m. Eastern. Take care. Bye.